Well, clearly, the fighter is your second favorite, right?
Oh, I don't know. I like shuttles a lot.
Wow.
Greetings, fellow interloper. It's me, Taylor. I'm back with a follow-up video for my breakout hit, Space Camp for Noobs.
Taylor, you're thinking of a different video.
What?
Yeah, you mean Volume 1 of the top 10 confusing things for newer players. Your Space Camp video's tanked.
Well, I wouldn't say tanked. That's kind of harsh. Oh, well. Anyway, it's great to be back on track with a video that will hopefully get a little bit more attention. And for the record, I expected Space Camp videos to have a lower than normal view count. I just wanted to make sure and get a series out for those who are starting fresh, or have perhaps taken a break from the game and returned to see a completely new game. As before, I'm going to attempt to order these from easier concepts moving to more advanced, starting with number 10. And yes, I decided to use number 5 only once this time. Before we get to the list, I had some awesome feedback from the community on Volume 1, so let me clear up a few things I either didn't explain all that well, or just didn't mention something I should have. Regarding exocrafts and summoning them, you'll always need to start with at least one geobay of the type of exocraft that you want to summon. Beyond that, if you have the orbital exocraft materializer installed on your freighter, you can travel anywhere you like. Call in your freighter and summon your exocraft without the need to build any future geobays. All you need is one for each type of exocraft. When you're running around for salvage data, not only can you sell them, keep in mind you can also refine one for 15 nanites each. Not quite the payout of a larval core, but it's still an option. When I mentioned shooting visiting fleets to get their salvage frigate modules, I did say you will lose standing with the galaxy's dominant race. However, if you avoid the smaller floating storage ships and any large freighter, you know, the ones with a landing bay, all other frigates are fair game to keep your good standing. Although you'll still have to deal with a few turrets and sentinel fighters, but they're terrible pilots. As far as the archives go, I had mentioned that each one has one upper one and one lower one, when in fact there are two on the lower level. My mistake, guys. Thanks for setting me straight. Alright, let's get into our newest list of 10 things that confuse the newer player. Coming in at number 10, I see a ton of questions about things that immediately tip me off that they have avoided the storyline and just wanted to play the game in a big sandbox and want to know how to unlock certain things. Well, first and foremost, if you want to just play and not worry about money and resources, you'll definitely want to play in creative mode, which is one of the modes you first select when you start a fresh game. It's great if you want to build without the worry of having to get more money or resources. You'll still have to unlock things though. For questions about the early game and other modes, I think much of these would be answered if you simply followed the storyline. It's actually mandatory for many of your early unlocks, which then make it possible to unlock other things. So, for all of you trying to play in normal mode without progressing the storyline, you'll be missing out on a ton and will be pretty limited in what you can do. So yeah, make sure and follow the storyline, especially early on. Alright, number 9 is something that veterans have probably taken for granted. And it's about how to use the analysis visor to locate hotspots and proceed to mine them. I bet this throws a lot of the newer players, so let's back up for a sec and make sure everything we need is unlocked on the Anomaly. Now, if you aren't sure what the Anomaly is, please refer to number 10. When it comes to mining, you need to have some blueprints unlocked at the construction terminal on the Anomaly. I would make sure you have power items like the electromagnetic generator, or EMG, as well as wiring, which you have to unlock because it's the very first one. I would also make sure and unlock the battery and solar panel in the event there's not a hotspot nearby, but as you'll see later in the video, it's been a rare problem for me to have. And of course, since we're talking about mining, you're going to want to make sure and get both mineral and gas extractors, as well as a supply pipe and supply depot. So if you're starting fresh and are buying all these at once, I believe if my math is right, you'll need 53 salvage data to unlock everything that we've just talked about. Alright, now that we have that squared away, let's get back to our planet where we'll use our analysis visor to see what pops up. A great way to go about mining is to find and mark the hotspots first. Then you can get a better idea of where to place your base computer. Remember, you have a radius of 1,000 U from the base computer in every direction. Meaning, if you have a gold hotspot 1,800 U from your power hotspot, you can place your base computer in a manner where each hotspot is under the 1,000 U from the base computer. More on this later in the video because this one deserves its own number. It helps to have the sound up when you use your visor. There are 5 survey modes that your visor can be in: analysis, target sweep, power, mineral, and gas. So let's put this into mineral mode. At the moment, nothing is showing up, but if you listen closely, there's a rhythmic scan noise, which will actually change sounds as you get close to the direction you need to head in. It goes from a richer, louder sound to a soft, tingy sound. That's the one you want. Keep heading in that direction, and you'll eventually get to a point where you'll see this: a direction to head in until both directions sync up, meaning you have the right heading. You'll also find out what class your mineral, gas, or electrical hotspot is. Like so many things in the game, even hotspots have classes. C-class hotspots will give you 40% yield, and goes upward by 20% for each class, with S yielding 100%. If you're dead set on an S-class hotspot, you can find one, but how long it takes is pretty random. For the sake of this video, we'll go with this one since the class is not important to teach. Eventually, you'll make your way to the hotspot, and you'll need to freeze and let the scanner do its analysis for the fine-tuning. This is where you find out what specific mineral or gas it is. At this point, I drop a marker to mark the area. Since extractors need power to run, ideally, we're hoping for an EMG hotspot nearby. If you don't see signs of any nearby power hotspot, then pick a direction and try to listen for that tingy scan. With the luxury of a 2,000 U radius, it's usually doable. Once you've located your hotspot, the same process applies. I then throw down a beacon and mark the power, and then find my mineral hotspot to get an idea of how far we are. Provided it's inside 2,000 U, which is usually the case, you can then place your base computer somewhere on the direct path between both hotspots. I try to usually put it in the center with equal distance between the two, if you're worried about base limits. After that, you simply extend your base out as far as you need and build your refiners and EMGs. If you're newer to the game, you might be confused as to how I'm able to build out 1,000 U from my base computer when the normal limit is 300 U. Well, that's a perfect segue to number 8, understanding base limits and how to expand beyond 300 U. The technique I like to use is to stand just inside your limit where your build menu pops back up. Then build something out as far as your destination as possible, which is indicated by the green color. From here, you just continue doing this until you're out as far as needed. If you're interested in a deeper dive, you can check out my base limits video. I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video. Number 7 is in the Discoveries menu. While, it's not overly confusing, it is something that goes underutilized. Once you get into your menu, you can learn quite a bit about a planet to assist you. For instance, even if you haven't scanned all the fauna on the planet, you know exactly how many flying, ground, and underwater fauna there are, which can be useful if you're looking for an animal companion. Some planets have just flying and underwater fauna, so you'd be out of luck. It's also an area that, well, if you've forgotten about it for a while, will net you a nice nanite payday for uploading all of your discoveries. Conveniently, there's an upload all button to earn those nanites with just a click of a button. Number 6. If you're looking to get out of the galaxy you're in, then most likely you're using a portal shortcut to get to the center of the galaxy, or maybe even doing the old school way of traveling all the way by hyperdrive and black holes. Respect. Well, one thing that newer players probably don't realize is when your multiplayer is on, when you visit the teleporter on the Anomaly, and you choose the space anomaly on the left-hand side, you can see not only your bases, you can check out other bases as well. Much of the time they're in Euclid, but every now and again, I'm surprised at some bases that are very high numbered galaxies. In this case, we can see there's a 255. So the next time you're on the Anomaly with multiplayer on, check out the teleporter because you never know what might pop up. And once you visit that galaxy, make sure and drop a base computer. Number 5 is a popular Reddit question, and it definitely seems that players are a little confused about ship scrapping, how it works, and what you need out of it, and what exactly you get out of it. Now, providing you're buying A and S-class ships for scrapping, there are 2 things you're looking for: mods and storage augmentations. The mods can be sold for a lot of nanites, and storage augmentations are, well, I consider them absolute gold. If you haven't noticed, as you expand your storage using this terminal, the slots get more and more expensive, to the point where your 48th slot will set you back millions of units. So if you're frequently scrapping, those will really come in handy to assist you in your ship expansion. The one drawback to this method is you will lose money on each scrap, but what you gain is much more valuable in my opinion. That said, you probably want a healthy supply of units to pull this off regularly. Alright, on to number 4. Many players, when they first start out, myself included, can get confused on which parts of this game is solo and which is multiplayer, as well as who can see your base or modify it or just plain destroy it. Well, when I first started, I thought I'd be running into travelers pretty frequently actually, until I dove into the game settings. Here you can see there's literally a choice to turn multiplayer on and off. When it's on, when you visit the Anomaly, you'll see other travelers and have the option to join their group or invite them to yours. Going back to settings, you can set this to invite only, so you keep random people from joining your game. There are also settings for permissions on base edits and a few others. Unless I'm working on a project with someone else, I'm always careful to make sure my permissions are set to no one. Even if you have multiplayer off, you'll still see other bases. They just have to be on the same platform as you. If you want to actually play and visit other bases, which are cross-platform, you want to go back out of the menu and select multiplayer. From here, you can add your friend's code and join their game. Once you've entered their code, it will be saved in your friends list. And while you're here, if you need to find your code, you can see there's a Show My No Man's Sky friend code button. So take some time to get acquainted with this menu. You won't be sorry. Number 3 is the confusion around paradise planets and how to find them. While there are no surefire way to find these gems, there are definitely a few things to do which will drastically increase your chances. The first thing is to be in a lush galaxy. If you're not sure what this is, I'd refer to my galaxy map mastery video, where I do a deeper dive into how this universe is organized. I'll be sure to leave a link to that as well at the end of the video. The first lush galaxy that most encounter is Isentam. Once here, you'll want to focus on the yellow stars, as well as their relative temperature number for that system. When you expand a system, you can see a lot of info. 1 is a number here, which gives you an idea of how hot or cold the system is. The higher the number, the colder. It's a bit counterintuitive, yeah, but it's also just a guide. I've actually found paradise planets on high numbers as well as low numbers, but they're far less frequent than the sweet spot of, say, 4, 5, or 6. So the next time your main objective is to find a new paradise planet, keep these things in mind and you'll be laying on the beach in no time. Number 2 is having so much confusion about glitch building that you've just thrown your hands up and refused to try. Well, it's certainly not for everybody, but if you like building, it's extremely enjoyable to find a way to make something that you could not have built otherwise. I did a glitch building 101 video where I break down every known glitch method and provide real examples of when and how to use each one. As I mentioned in that video, when I heard the term glitch building, I thought it was building with stabilized reality glitches.
I was way off.
Glitch building is simply a way to build things that would normally not be possible by using certain techniques to essentially trick the game. It's a form of exploit, but definitely one that only enriches the game rather than watering it down like so many others. If you're interested in learning more, make sure and check out my video, as well as Beeblebum's channel, to really dive into the world of glitch building. From there, you're sure to meet other beginning builders as well as other master builders who are always there to help you when you're stuck. Alright guys, number 1 is that, to this day, shows up on message boards and discords as being something that's super confusing, and that's the process of getting mods with high stats without spending a fortune on nanites. And once you get them, what's the best configuration to capitalize on the proximity bonus, which is displayed by a colored border around mods of the same type that are next to each other? So let's address the first part. In a game full of absolute randomness, it's easy to think that S-Class mods you just bought for your hyperdrive is also random in what stats you'll get. But this randomness actually follows a predetermined order within the same mod type. In this case, it's hyperdrive. So let's say you already have your 6 hyperdrive mods installed. Obviously, they're not all going to be 250 light year range each, which would be the max stat for this mod. So you install one and see that it's not better than anything you already have, so there goes over 500 nanites down the drain, right? Well, given that this order is predictable, a better option would be to get a sneak peek at the order by collecting as many of these same S-Class mods as you can. So after a few reloads, you can see that I have 4 S-Class hyperdrive mods here. I've also purchased a few C-Class mods to serve as cheaper placeholders. First, we'll get our sneak peek at our 4 S-Class mods. Now we can check out the stats of each of these mods and write down their order. It's very important that you remember this order. As you can see, we have the following stats for each of these mods, starting with number 1 on the far left. Okay, that's God tier. That's 250 light years. I'll definitely be installing that one. But let's just ignore that and focus on the order. Alright, so the first one was 250, the next is 208, then 200, and the last is 201. For the sake of this example, let's pretend that mod number 4, the 201 light year mod, is the one we want to install. So now we'll reload and reset our mods. Now that we know that mod 4 is the one we want, we'll use our drastically cheaper C-Class mods and install 3 of them, which leads us to our 4th spot, the one we want. The big takeaway here is that even though the mods are C-Class, they're still hyperdrive mods, which will advance the order. So now when we get to the 4 spot, rather than using another C, of course, we're going to be using an S-Class mod. Now, it doesn't actually matter which one of these I pick, because 201 is up. So as you can see, we put it in, and 201. And there we go, we got the mod we wanted, and we're only out a fraction of the nanites. So when we're talking upgrades for your ship and exosuit, both the general as well as tech tabs can each hold 3 upgrades of the same family of mods, and both sets can get a little bump with the proximity bonus. There is still a lot of confusion as to what the ideal position of these mods are, which is understandable since various positions have different results even though they're all touching. So the best way to do it is just to play around. So we're going to start with the actual hyperdrive itself, and then we're going to surround it with the upgrades. Now you can keep track of kind of where it's at by noting where your hyperdrive range was before you started. So right now with the plus formation, we've got a 2909 range. Now the position that works for me the best is when I group all of my extra mods together and I have them connect to the hyperdrive itself. And then if you have an indium drive, I stick that kind of on the end or so it's touching that actual hyperdrive. So now we're looking at 2968.9. So we've got quite a bit of bump from this formation. Oh, but if you move the indium drive so it's touching one of the 3, you can see that we've now got 2981.3, which is the leader in the clubhouse. So we can still keep playing around here and hope that we can beat 2981, but it seems like the way to go is to have your indium drive touching one of the 3 and your hyperdrive touching one of the 3. But we finally settled on a solution. We have our 3 together on the right hand side, and then we're going to put our indium drive and our hyperdrive touching one another as well as them touching the 3 to reach a 2191.3. That I can live with, not too shabby. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me. We're nearing 20 minutes and it's probably my longest video to date. I really appreciate you guys sticking around if you're still here, and appreciate all the support. This channel is growing massively and I can't thank you guys enough. And as promised, here are the other videos that I mentioned earlier. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This is Taylor with Whiskey Barrel Gaming, signing off.